afternoon. It is 1:30 and we have an exciting episode this month. We've got the new AI agents that are embedded into the Copilot. So it's super exciting, and in fact I'll be taking notes myself because I haven't had too much use case, so I'm going to be taking notes along with all of you guys. So really looking forward to getting started and hearing all about this. So usual kind of housekeeping. Across the top you'll see Q&A and the in the chat bar. I'll be trying to manage that, although I'm not going to be too helpful of answering those questions, but we'll grab those at the end and bring Anna-Rika back in and answer those questions. So make use of that. And the other thing is, the question always gets raised, are we recording it, and will we be providing the recording at the end? And yes, we always do. So if you register, we'll email you a copy of the recording. If you don't, otherwise subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll just get notified when we publish the recording, which will be sometime over the next few days. Okay, well, I think that's enough from me. Over to you, Anna-Rika.
Lovely. Thank you, Ian, and thank you everyone for coming along. Today we are going to be looking at some of the new agents that Microsoft have released into Copilot as part of the Copilot paid license. So that is a criteria for the topic today. It is linked to that paid license. So if you're just using the free one, these tools won't be available to you, but with the paid license, you do get these. So let's have a look at what we've got. Now, there are three agents that we're going to be focusing in on today. It's the Researcher agent, Analyst agent, and Facilitator agent. The first two are quite advanced agents, and they're using advanced reasoning, which is called chain of thought reasoning, and I'll explain that a little bit later on. And it differs from your standard chat prompts that you put in. It's diving deeper, and it's acting more as a research agent or an analyst for you to get information back. So when you read the description, you might think, oh, but that's the same as what I get when I put a prompt in. But it is different. It's going to go deeper, and the results that you get back are quite astounding, actually. Researcher agent delivers you more thorough and informed insights, helping you with that decision-making process. With the analyst, what it's doing is taking your data and pulling some information out of that. So you're telling it what you want out of your data, and it then produces reports back on your data. And the great thing is it can even work on dirty data. And by dirty data, I mean unstructured spreadsheets that you might have. So if they're not perfectly lined up, it will do its best to clean it up for you, which is absolutely amazing. And I've fed it through and I've seen it do that. And on top of that, it also tells you what it's done to clean up the data to make things work, so you can check it as it's doing its steps. The last agent is different, and that's the Facilitator agent. It sits inside your Teams meetings. So for those of you that already have the subscription version of Copilot, you're probably using the recaps that you get during your meetings out of Copilot, and those are really good. Most of you, I'm sure, are getting some good benefit out of that. The Facilitator agent is different in that it is attending the meeting like an attendee, and it allows you to ask questions of it during the meeting. It takes notes as you're going through the meeting. It makes sure that you're staying on track with the topics in the agenda, and it then provides a more thorough minutes at the end as well. So I'll go through each of those three in our session today. There is a lot to cover, so I'm going to go at speed, but put your questions in and we'll answer those at the end. A couple of considerations, particularly for the Research and Analyst agent. Those two are using that chain of thought reasoning that I talked about, and because they're going deeper and using that advanced thought process, the results will take longer to come back. So it can take anywhere from about 5 minutes through to 15, 20 minutes, depending on how deep the research is that you're wanting it to do. But it is working on it like a research assistant, so you're getting some amazing information coming back through. You also have monthly usage limits on those, and I'll talk you through what those limits are as well as we go through. So let's start with the Research agent. This is what it looks like. At first look, it sounds like it's doing the same as what you would do with a prompt. It's looking over your enterprise data, looking at your emails, your chats, your meeting recordings and your documents, etc. What it does then is it produces more highly personalized results out of that information. Plus, you can also ask it to interact with the web if you're wanting to pull information from the web. So it's looking at the people, the projects, the products, and your unique interplay with those entities inside your work. So that could be mistaken to be the same as the prompt. Let's get into the part that's different. So it uses that chain of thought reasoning that I mentioned. And what chain of thought reasoning is it's mirroring the methodology that you as an individual would take if you were doing the research yourself. So it's going to come to you and ask for clarification after you give it the prompt. And based on the answers that you give it, it will then devise a plan on how it's going to do its research. So it does a step-by-step plan, and it breaks each of those problems into subtasks. Once it knows what those tasks are, it then starts to do its reasoning, and it does it as an iterative move. I'm going to get tongue-tied today. So it will start by doing the reasoning, it will retrieve information, it will review what it's done, and then it will loop back and continue to do that. As it's collecting that information, it's scratch padding it, so it's collecting up all that information. And once it feels it's got all the information it needs, it then starts to pull that together to produce the final report. So as I said, it's a bit like what we would do if we were going out doing the research. We can also get it to work together with other agents. So if you are using some of those agents that can be created inside a Copilot, you can ask it to interact with those agents. So for example, if you had the sales agent, you could ask it to help me prepare for my visit with customer X next week. It would then have a look at the information that lives on your side and pull all the relevant information together on the client based on that. But it can then also go to your CRM information through that sales agent and pull the information on that client as well. So it'll be able to see what issues have taken place, what customer contact there was during the last X amount of months, etc. And it will then bring all that information together and give you a summary. It can also connect with third-party data through the connectors. So if you need it to have a connection to that data, it can be done. Here's an example of the research agent connecting with that sales agent. So I know it is a little bit small, so I'll read a little bit of the data. So it's presenting specific example. This is us asking the prompt. We want it to present specific examples and scenarios illustrating the current state of the partnership. Assemble content into a cohesive, easily digestible paper for both IT and business leaders, and search through the enterprise content, SharePoint, OneDrive, Power BI, Dynamics, etc. And you can now see step by step the interactions that it's doing. So it's talking to the sales agent, asking it to connect with Prosware to get the information that it needs, and it's telling it what information is required. It's then searching the enterprise tools, it's clarifying the project requirements. So I can see each of those steps, and I can see that it's completed as it works its way through. Now, I'm going to bring up some examples of use. As I do so, though, I'm just going to bring up what agent looks like live. And we can see that here in our window. Excuse me. When we want to find the agent, we open up our M365 app. That will then allow us to go to agents, and we select researcher. Analyst is the other one that we're going to be working with today. From here, you paste in your prompt. I'm just going to grab my prompt to put in, one I cooked up earlier. Pop that in, and then we hit go. It then has a look at what that information is and starts thinking about what is the information that it needs, and it will then come back and ask us some questions about that. And of course, now that we're live, it's going, I'm going to take a little bit of time about this. There we go. Here it is. It's going to ask me some questions and ask me to answer those. Now, rather than me answering the questions while we're live, I'm just going to tell it to go ahead and use its best judgment, and we'll leave it working while we go through the rest of the presentation. So it's some examples of use. You could be using it for market and competitive analysis. So a use case here is a client wants to understand their position in the market. So you can ask the researcher agent to identify key competitors and summarize their offerings. You can ask it to track recent news, product launches, strategic moves, compare pricing models, customer reviews, etc. And of course, that's going to save you doing that manual research yourself. We can use it to look at industry trends and insights. So let's say you're a team preparing for a strategy workshop, and you can ask the agent to pull together some recent reports and articles on emerging trends, highlight innovations, disruptions, etc., provide citations and links to authoritative sources. So that's going to equip your team with some up-to-date insights to help with the decision making. I know there's a few of you that have to follow policies and regulations, and it's a case of having to keep up with what's taking place in that space. So you could ask the researcher agent to assist you with that. So the use case here is a legal or compliance team tracking changes. You can ask it to monitor updates in the laws and regulations, summarize implications for the business, or provide links to official government or legal sources. So that's doing the hard work, if you like, rather than you having to keep up to speed. Strategic planning. So for those of you that are in the executive space, you can ask the researcher agent to help you prepare for your board meetings, as an example. So compile some of that relevant data and the trends, summarize what's happening with your competitors and what's happening in the market, and provide things like SWOT analysis or scenario planning inputs, again, helping you get to those results faster. Using that researcher agent, I've shown you that in the previous screen. So it's a case of locating the agent, giving it the prompt. Once the result comes back, you can then copy that information and put it into something like a Word document for you to work with, or you can put it into Copilot pages and work on it from there. Now, I have grabbed some screenshots of what it looks like as it's working, because the one that we've just done may take a while and it may not be complete in time for us to go through. So let's use these screenshots. So in here, I've put my prompt. We click OK, and as you saw, once you put that prompt in, it's going to ask you some questions just to clarify what you're needing. Once you've answered those questions, it then goes away and starts working on putting the plan together of how it's going to do that research. Now, a little trick here is there is a button that says show less, show more. It will only show one item if it's not expanded. So click that button and you'll be able to see the different steps taking place. So you can see it's starting its research, it's analysing the search results, it's evaluating the search terms, etc. Once it's worked its way through the steps, and as I said to you, it can take a little bit of time for that to take place, it will then generate a report for you. And this is the beginnings of the report, and it's smart enough to not just give you text, but it's also giving you some visualizations as well as part of the report that comes back, if that's appropriate for the information that you've asked of it. Really powerful, and the information that's in there is really good. This particular one is probably about a 3 or 4 page report that it's come back with the information inside of it. So that's our research agent. Now we'll move into the analyst agent. The analyst agent works with your data. So you're going to provide it spreadsheets or links to where your data is and ask it to analyze that data. We access it the same way. We go to the agents and choose analyst. The analyst itself, what it's designed to do is to take your complex data and provide you with some insights and some visualizations from there. It has connections to Python, so it's going to use Python to write the code and produce the visualizations to get that information. So you'll see that code as it's running. For those of you that understand Python, you can go in there and check its workings. For those of you that don't, you'll see the output, and that's totally fine. So it's going to enable you and the team to make those decisions a bit faster and a bit more efficiently. It's thinking like a data scientist. So what it's doing is allowing each member that has Copilot subscriptions to have their own data scientist analysing the data that's there. And there's some information there on what it's using. So it's using the OpenAI's O3 Mini as its model, and it's using that chain of thought reasoning that we saw in the research analyst, research agent as well. The Python is used to tackle those complex data queries, and it can work across multiple spreadsheets as well. So it's not limited to just the one spreadsheet. So feed it what you need and it will then go away and do the work. Here's some examples of its work. We can use it for data analysis and visualization. So an example here is a business team wants to understand the sales performance across the regions. And so we can ask the analyst agent to clean and analyze that raw sales data, identify trends, outliers, correlations, etc., as well as generate reports, generate charts, dashboards, and summaries. So it's taking that complex data and turning it into actionable insights. Financial modelling and forecasting, I'm sure a lot of you are involved in that space. So we can get the analyst agent to build financial models based on that historical data that you own. You can get it to run scenarios as well. So what's the best case or the worst case scenario? Get it to look at forecasting revenue, costs and cash flows, etc. So again, helping you with those strategic decisions that you're needing to make. Strategic insight generation for executives, you could be asking it to summarise key performance indicators, highlight any risks and opportunities, provide visual summaries for presentations, etc. Those of you working in the operational side of things, you might want it to look at your logistical performance. Where are things working well? What's our delivery times like, the costs and the bottlenecks? How do we benchmark across other teams and regions? And where are the opportunities for process improvement? So lots of ideas of how we can use that analyst. I've fed it, for our example, the spreadsheet here, which has got our sales for region, what the products are, the quantities, the sales, etc., and asked it to go and analyse. So use the following worksheet to assess any trends you find in the data. How are our sales reps performing? Which regions are doing better than others? What product sales insights do you have? Provide me with insights and then provide a graphic that summarises the information in the spreadsheet. And then I provided the spreadsheet. Now this is dummy data, it's not live, so I'm not showing you anything sensitive here. But you can see it's going through the similar process that we had for Researcher, that it's telling me step by step what it's doing. So it's checking what's inside the spreadsheet, working out what the columns are, extracting the information that it needs. I can then see the Python code starting to appear. A little bit further down, it's telling me that it's examining the product trends, analysing my sales trends and examining the product trends. Again, some more Python code coming through. Once it's finished, it produces a report. This one, it's done in a more summarised manner because there's not a huge amount of data in this particular spreadsheet. So it's given me the information. I've gone in, I've checked all those figures and it got it 100% right. And then it's also provided the graphic that I've asked for as well. I've fed it information that's dirty and challenging, so your messy data, things that you may not have done proper columns for or where you're missing some information, etc. And I'm really surprised at how well it handles that data. What it does is it attempts to clean the data and then it reasons over that data in the worksheets to understand the logic and interpret it, and realise that's been spelt wrong, a lot better. So what it does as part of its cleaning, it does the data cleaning. So as part of that, it's automatically detecting and suggesting fixes for common issues like missing or null values. It's looking for duplicates and any inconsistent formats. So have you got dates in different formats or currencies in different formats and things like that? It will apply some data transformation. So those of you that are familiar with data transformation, it'll do some normalization and some standardization. If you've got column columns that need splitting. Sometimes we have date and time together in the one column, and in order to get the answer that we need, it needs to split those into 2 columns, and it knows to split it, and it will do that for you. Likewise, it will merge columns together if they need to be merged, and it can also handle the different data type conversions. So if you've got dates showing as text when they should be dates, it will make that conversion for you as well. It will also flag any unusual patterns or outliers that may skew the analysis. So it will produce the results, but it will tell you that there's some information in there that may have skewed the final analysis. It can handle contextual reasoning, so it uses the AI to infer meaning from that ambiguous or incomplete data, or it will label things to say, here are where some of your problems are. We saw the steps it takes, so it's going to, as part of those steps, provide you with the explanations of what it's done in order to do that cleaning of the messy data, so you can see every step of the way how it works. Now, I mentioned to you that there are limits in terms of how many times you can be using the researcher or analyst agents. Now, this just applies to these 2 agents. We are limited to 25 queries per calendar month per user. Now that can be made up of researcher and analyst queries. So you might have 5 of the researcher and 20 of the analyst, for example, but it's that combined amount that has to be kept within the 25 prompts. So that's one thing you will need to be aware of, and it's done on the calendar month, so it renews on the 1st of every month. So those 2 are pretty amazing agents. Next, we'll move on to the facilitator agent inside of Teams. Now, this lives inside of your Teams meetings, and it works alongside you and your team as you conduct the meeting. It's another attendee in the meeting. And what it's going to do is take your notes. It's going to get you some quick answers. It's going to moderate the conversation. It's going to make sure you stay on task and make sure that you keep your timings correct as well. If you attend a meeting with an agenda in advance, this is what you'll be seeing. So the agenda is there, and it's checking how you progress against your agenda, and it will mark things off as you complete the agenda items working through. It also takes notes as you're working your way through the meeting. So you'll see the minutes being compiled as the meeting is taking place, and all of the attendees that are in that meeting can also be adding to the minutes as well. So it's collaborating with all of you together. It acts like a virtual assistant, so we can be asking questions of it, but it's also there to guide us in the meeting as well. Now, it's available in scheduled meetings, in Teams rooms, and in peer-to-peer chats. And again, another window seeing what's taking place here. This is the meeting chat inside the meeting. You can see the employees here are talking with each other, and then facilitators stepped in as well and has said that you're halfway through the meeting, everyone. You've got 12 minutes left. Here's a recap of our key decisions so far. So it's guiding us through that conversation. Key benefits is it captures the meeting discussions in real time, highlights any follow-ups and decisions, keeps meetings on track using the agenda and the inferred goals. Everyone sees the facilitator's contributions live, so it's happening as you're in the meeting, and participants can ask open-ended questions during the meeting of the facilitator as well. At the end of the meeting, you'll get a recap like what you're getting at the moment, but it looks different. So for those of you that are using the recap from the meetings, you'll be coming into this space and you'll see the AI summary, and the AI summary is where it's giving you a summary of what took place in the meeting. This time though, you'll notice we're in the note space. And the note space is putting the agenda and the meeting minutes up on screen here. So we can see that our agenda items were marked off. It's created our minutes underneath, and the details that come into the minutes are a lot more detailed than the AI summary. Oh, excuse me, a little bit of water to keep me going. How do you turn facilitator on? So as long as you have a Copilot license, then you will have this feature available to you. People that are internal staff are all able to access the facilitator in the meeting. However, externals are not, but you can still have a meeting with externals there. They're just not going to be able to access the facilitator. The other people in the meeting will be able to. To turn it on, when you set up your meeting, you'll want to set it up inside of Teams. When the invite is opened up, you'll see here facilitator is off for this meeting, and you're going to click the turn on button to switch it on. Now, sometimes that's not visible, and if that's the case, then click on the meeting options button inside that invite window, go to Copilot, and then enable facilitator. So you can see down here Copilot and other AI. And from here, we can decide whether it's going to be during and after the meeting, and there's some other options in there as well. Turn your facilitator on, and you can specify the language that you want it to be working in. Sometimes you'll jump into a meeting and go, oh, I really want facilitator here. You can turn it on during the meeting. And to do that, we click the More button when you're inside the meeting, and there's an option there to turn the facilitator on. It may ask you to set the language if it's not been already set. So set that, and then you're all good to go. You will need to make sure that you are recording the meeting, or at least transcribing the meeting. It needs one of those two options present for it to be able to function. So just like when you're doing the meeting recaps with the standard Copilot. We've talked about the externals and that it's only for people with a Copilot license, so we'll skip that one. Oops. I think I have managed to get us to the end of the presentation. There we go. There was a little video there for us to watch on how the Copilot works. I might just put a link to that in our response back to you with the video link, so you can watch that in your own time, just so we can keep you all on time for today's webinar. Now, that was a bit of a taster of those three agents. There are constantly new features and updates coming to Copilot, and it's a case of how do you stay on top of these changes. We have a group of users who are part of Copilot Engage, and we meet on a monthly basis with each of these different organisations and provide them with updates. So if you're interested in getting involved with something like that, let us know. We also, as part of that, support them with their Copilot journey by answering any queries that they have and providing them with some support. So this month, the topics that we're working through with those Copilot Engage clients is Context IQ, the Outlook updates for Copilot, and Copilot memory. So that's just a bit of a taster of some of those bits that are coming through. So it means that you're always hearing what the latest items are. That brings us to the end of our presentation. So it's now an opportunity to ask some questions. Are there any questions that came through, Ian?
Yeah, actually, just a couple. I'll just start with just a simple question quickly. How do you know if you're on the paid version or not of Copilot? And for that, the simple answer is if you're looking at Copilot and you have a switch across the top that has work and web, and you can switch between the two, then that is the paid version. If you don't have a switch at all, yeah, if you don't have that switch at all, then you're on the free version, which is just the chat, which is just web-based content. So that's that, hopefully answered quickly. The next question is the facilitator only available for those with a paid license, or all invitees regardless of the license? Now, I think you answered this just shortly after that question was asked, but just to clarify, the host of the meeting has to have a paid license, and then anyone else attending the meeting internally doesn't have to have a paid license. Is that right?
They can attend without having the paid license, but if they want to be able to interact with the facilitator, they need a paid license.
Okay.
And by interacting, that's having that conversation taking place. It will still take the minutes for you in that detail, but you need the license for the interaction.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And then I wrote down for the data analyst agent. So just to be really clear, because we get asked a lot of times about reporting and Power BI and things like that, right? So from my perception, data analyst is for like one time asking the questions on a raw set of data. Do you think it's going to be something that you would do on a monthly basis and just say, well, can you show me all that same data again, but using this month's data and this month's information?
Yes, you can, but if you are doing that sort of detail, then you might want to get in touch with us and we can look at doing some agents that will then run that sort of information for you. So creating a bespoke agent that runs through that and has a consistent approach every month.
Okay, because if you connected that agent, the analyst agent, to a spreadsheet and the data refreshed in the spreadsheet, do you think it would still be reading the original uploaded data content that it would consume at the point that you uploaded it, rather than now, like a week later, pulling the refreshed data from the spreadsheet?
If you ran it in April, for example, and you needed to run it again 2 months later, I would put the same prompt that you used in April into this month's with the connector to the refreshed data, and then you're going to get the new results. Now, the thing with Copilot, though, is its response back to you might look different to the one that you did in April, which is why I'm saying if you do want some consistency, you may want to have that specified, and we can handle that by creating bespoke agents.
Okay. Okay, brilliant. Right, do you mind next sliding and we'll talk about the next session? I think that's it
Yes.
for questions.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, right. Our next session is actually going to be me. So I'll be talking about archiving. So there's lots of ways that people do or don't, probably they don't, archive their files out of SharePoint. So it's an interesting topic. But even if you're not archiving, maybe join and we'll talk about why you should be archiving even if you're not. So that's the next topic, which is actually the 17th of September. Same time, same place. So feel free to register. And that's it for me. So yeah, I
Now,
just saw you just flashed up.
one thing that I will do for those that are interested, I can bring up what the researcher agent came back with as a result. So for those that want to stay on, I'll bring that on up on screen. For those that are ready to head off, thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you at the next session. So for those of you that are keen to see what researcher came back with, now the topic that I asked it to investigate is actually linked to Ian's topic for the next webinar, which is around that cloud governance. So let's see what it came back with. Opening this up, we can have a look at all the tasks that took place as part of its analysis work or the research work that it did. So it started its research, it broke down the tasks, it's gathering insights, it's researching the approach, gathering backgrounds, looking into different aspects of cloud governance, and it's going into a lot of detail. You can see each of the different steps, and at each step it's telling you what it's doing. So this one here, it's telling me that it's investigating future trends. So I'm curious about separate searches for cloud governance and identifying emerging trends, assessing future governance, putting together the insights, and it just keeps going and going. It's working really hard to get the information together for me. Once it's finished that, we'll just take it all the way to the bottom here. It then has its report. So once it's finished its last step, it moves straight into the report and it's laid things out. It has its references for us here. It's put some visuals in place for us as well. It then has bullet points, information going through, stricter laws. Now this one is many pages of information. I'm just going to scroll so you can see, oh, it's got a timeline in here as well in terms of the steps that you should be looking at for deployment, best practices, a ton of information. Now, Ian's not going to make you read all of this document when you come along to his webinar, but you can see that there is a lot of information here. So it's done a lot of research for you. You can then take this research and ask it to summarize what's inside of here as well. So if it's too long, tell it to make it X amount of pages long, etc. So you can keep reiterating on the information that is returned when it does this work. That's it from me. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you very much.